are guys that you remember.
I mean, records are meant to be broken. You want to put your name in a book.
You know, Peyton just said, if I need something, I'm going to Marvin, and Marvin's going to get open. And he did.
There are plenty of talented people in the world, but in pro football, individual achievement usually takes a backseat to team spirit.
I think football is the ultimate team sport. It's all about what you can accomplish as an 11-man unit and then 3 units working together.
40 men together can't lose. Okay.
But still, there are seasons within a football season that transcend all that.
He's got it at a brand new single-season rushing record.
What makes a great single-season performance? Some have left fans on the edge of their seats. Others have been a product of sheer dominance.
Look at that cookie stride.
And still others have reached milestones no one ever imagined.
Number 49, and Dan Marino can take a step back. Peyton Manning can do this.
Is it selfish? I don't think so. I think that's what drives these guys, what drives athletes. You know, go do something that other people say you can't do. It's what the mentality is all about.
That's highlight reel material forever.
Even in the ultimate team sport, they become memorable based on that individual accomplishment.
With more than 80 NFL seasons to choose from, it took plenty of juice to make our list.
Touchdown, Marvin Harrison!
You're the greatest alive! You're looking at a living legend right now! I hope y'all got y'all recorders at home, DVR!
The number 10 single-season performance of all time. Mark Mosley wins the MVP.
When Mark lined up to kick a field goal, it was going to go through. I mean, there was no doubt.
I never thought Mosley would ever miss. Ever.
Our number 10 performance is Mark Mosley's, who in 1982 became the only kicker in NFL history to win the Most Valuable Player award.
I mean, that's like Haley's Comet stuff, that just doesn't happen.
Kick is up. It's good!
But I was very fortunate that year to be on a team that really needed what I could do, and which was make field goals.
Mark Mosley, without question, was the most valuable part of our football team.
Seisman set. Snap. Hold. Kick is up. It's good.
Every time we needed a clutch kick, Mark would get it done.
In 1982, a player's strike shortened the NFL season to just 9 games, which magnified the importance of every scoring attempt.
That year, every week, I was having to do something spectacular to help keep us winning.
He starts making kicks for us, and he keeps making kicks.
He becomes a huge figure in the grand scheme of things.
There were some games where Mosley, by far was the difference.
We had 9 games, we won 8, and I think 7 of those games I won with field goals.
The whole season started with them going down the field late in the game against Philadelphia.
He makes a kick at that end of the game to tie it.
Mark Mosley's toe is sent it to overtime.
He makes another one to win it.
Snap. Hold is good. Kick is up long enough. It's good. And Mark Mosley's toe has won it in overtime.
And he just keeps nailing it.
They had a game against St. Louis that they won 12-7, and he kicked for all their points.
That's a great kick by Mosley.
Staying true to kicker stereotypes, our number 10 pick had his own set of idiosyncrasies.
Now, he was eccentric in his own right.
Kickers are different.
13 socks.
I would say he had at least 5-6 pairs of socks on. One of them was one of those big, thick hunting pair of socks.
Specially made shoe.
All the opposing coaches used to swear he had a specially weighted shoe.
I think we even had a shoe inspected one time prior to a game just to make sure it was legal, and it was. You know, when someone does it as well as he was doing, you got to find something illegal about it, you know, and we couldn't find anything.
Critics may have questioned whether Mosley was on the level, but there's no denying he was the NFL's last straight shooter.
He's a straightaway kicker, and it is good.
Mark Mosley kicked well in all kinds of weather for us. I mean, that was one of the advantages of him being a straight-on kicker. He never had a problem with his plant foot. It seemed like so often you see sidewinders plant their plant foot, they slip, fall on their rear ends, ball gets 4 feet off the ground, hits the center of the back of the head.
It's like a skating rink out there.
In Mark's case, he had enough weight in that leg and shoe of his that all he had to do was get the pendulum swinging.
The field goal by Mosley.
Mosley was immune to field conditions, kicking the Redskins into the playoffs with what was then an NFL record, his 21st consecutive field goal.
9 seconds to go. A 42-yard attempt. Plenty long enough.
He hit it like he hit all of them.
It's good! Mark Mosley has broken the National Football League record.
The one kick set an NFL record, won the game, and it also put us in the playoffs for the first time in 6 years.
You're in the playoffs.
I know. Isn't that exciting?
We'll take it any way we can get it.
It's all because of this guy right here. He's the greatest kicker in football.
Mosley ended his super season by helping the Redskins win Super Bowl 17.
I'm lucky enough to wear a world championship ring.
To this day, I always say that he's a single reason that we're able to have flash the hardware, because the guy kicked us out of a lot of jams, and you gotta love him for that.
Coming up, which return specialist made the biggest impact on his team's season?
He was the most dangerous offensive weapon on a team, and he didn't even play on the offensive side of the football.
We can remember.
It's going to be physical. It's going to be tough. You're going to be tired.
In 2001, Giants defensive end Michael Strahan set a new single-season record with 22 and a half sacks.
Rolls right and gets stopped. It's a new record, Michael Strahan.
As an individual, Strahan raised the bar in 2001, and while the 2000 Ravens and the 1985 Bears are considered among the best overall defenses,
Look at the throw, pressure, throws underneath, it's intercepted. Ray Lewis intercepts.
they couldn't match a defensive delicacy from the South.
The number 9 single-season performance of all time, Jerry Glanville's Grits Blitz defense.
Jerry Glanville and the Grits Blitz, certifiably crazy.
The modern-day record for least amount of points given up by a defensive team in one season is 129 points by the 1977 Atlanta Falcons. We walked out in the ball field, with that lean and hungry look.
Meet the Grits Blitz, 3 of the toughest linebackers in football. The only thing these guys love more than sacking a quarterback is a bowl of good grits.
Hey, grits.
All right.
Quaker's got that good country flavor, and you fix them in seconds.
Great grits. How about some more?
Give me those grits.
Intercepted.
Most people remember Jerry Glanville as the Falcons head coach in the early 90s, but as a young assistant in 1977, his Grits Blitz defense was the Falcons' meal ticket.
The main thing to making grits is actually keeping them stirred as you're making them.
And that's what you saw in our defense. It was just a swirl of human bodies just flying around trying to get their hat on the ball carrier.
After back-to-back 4-win seasons in 1975 and 76, Lehman Bennett was hired as head coach, and his defensive coordinator pulled no punches.
No touchdown. Field goal attempt. Come on, Charlie. Come on, Charlie. You're killing me. Oh, super play.
Players like us who had been through those tumultuous years prior to that, it was really refreshing to see a coach that knew what he was doing.
That helps the safety on the post corner. Everybody paying attention. This is a toughie. Corner and safety got to communicate.
We were just doing some things none of us had ever seen before. Coach Glanville, if he could blitz 13 guys, he would have done it. I always hear people talk about Buddy Ryan and 8 in the box and the great Chicago team in 1985. I think if you look about 10 years ahead of that, what Jerry Glanville was doing in Atlanta, he was 8 and 9 in the box all day long.
Our number 9 single-season performance allowed only 9.2 points per game, a mark that no defense, not even the 1985 Bears, has matched. However, the Falcons' offense wasn't as impressive and averaged less than 13 points a game.
Every game was such a war for us. When you can't score points, we held 2 teams to under 100 yards and we lost.
A 7-7 record denied Glanville's Grits Blitz a playoff berth and the respect it deserved. Only 2 members of the NFL's top defense were named All-Pro. Number 87, Claude Humphrey, and the NFC's interception leader, number 22, Roland Lawrence.
We gave up 129 points, and the fun of it was nobody knows who was on the team. people can't name those players. They can't name the individuals. What they accomplished is greater than any defense that ever played.
We just kind of lived in our little world of obscurity. We had a scheme that was pretty radical, and we had a bunch of guys that bought in 100%.
We had the best NFL defense on a 14-game season.
The number 8 single-season performance of all time, Devin Hester's 2007 season.
This is an amusement ride. I mean, you never know what you're going to get from Devin Hester.
In 2006, rookie Devin Hester tied an NFL record with 5 kick return touchdowns before adding another in Super Bowl 41.
To the outside, 30 to the touchdown, Bears!
He is a dangerous weapon, and he did it on kickoffs, also on punt returns.
I told my mom, I told her to order some popcorn. It's going to be a show tonight.
There were certain people, when they had the football in their hands, it was magic.
I'm in awe of the fact that he ran back 6 kickoff returns in his rookie year. That's like a guy getting 5 gold medals in the Olympics. People don't realize how hard that's to do.
Devin Hester takes it back 84 yards, baby.
Hester's 2006 season would have made our list, but his 2007 season was even better, with a record 6 regular season touchdown returns.
It's astounding, amazing, and hardly believable because I didn't think it could be done that way again. He returned 2 against Denver like he did 2 against St. Louis the year before.
Here goes Hester, midfield, there he goes, Devin Hester keeps making history. Touchdown, touchdown Bears. Number 2 today.
Devin Hester, you are ridiculous.
It's almost impossible to calculate his impact on that team because they needed that so much.
Nobody took the Bears seriously. And then this kid, Devin Hester, comes along, and they didn't know what to do with him. They had to put him back there. The guy ends up running back kicks, and he changed the whole complexion of the game.
He might be the most dangerous guy in football today.
Even when Hester wasn't scoring touchdowns in 2007, he tilted the field in favor of the Bears.
And he screws up the punter.
They're about to kick it out of bounds anyway.
You have kickoff teams, punting teams, all talking to themselves. We cannot get the ball to Hester because there's a great chance that he could bust it.
He changed his games, ladies and gentlemen.
It's essentially 11-on-1.
You need a couple blocks, get him through the first wave, and then you got a problem on your hands because of one thing, speed. The scout report is he didn't have great speed. Well, you don't take 6 returns back for touchdowns without great speed. I'm sorry.
That was just pure speed and acceleration.
You just see this blur go by you.
If you watch closely, the players from both teams get up off the bench, they crowd the sidelines.
Oh, that's returnable.
Everybody wants to take a peek. I mean, this is theater here.
Hey, D, what do you think on that? You gonna break one? You gonna break one? Yeah.
Starts right now left. Up the left sideline, an opening. He strikes again. Touchdown!
The fact that you can do it once or twice in a year, that's pretty darn good. But 6, that's pretty damn impressive.
No chance. Goodbye. Touchdown. The Windy City Flyer. Devin Hester.
Who drafts a guy to be a return specialist, and then he becomes not just a specialist, but the greatest specialist in the history of the game?
The NFL's all-time leading kick returner is Brian Mitchell, who returned 13 kicks for touchdowns.
Coast to coast. An 89-yard kickoff return by Brian Mitchell.
After his record-breaking 2007 season, Hester is just 2 shy of Mitchell's record.
Brian Mitchell took over 1,000 returns to get that number. Devin has done it in less than 200 returns. And when they say he is the greatest return man of all time, I think that has a lot of merit, despite the fact he's only done it for 2 years.
He's done some things that took me 4 years to do. One thing we know, he's a great return guy. The question is, where does Devin Hester fit? Is he an offensive guy? Is he a defensive guy?
In 2007, Hester not only set a record with 6 return touchdowns in the regular season, he was the Bears' most explosive offensive weapon.
Down the right side. Hester over the shoulder 10. 5. Touchdown.
Brilliance on special teams and offense put Hester at number 8 on our list of greatest single-season performances.
He's a gift. He's a gift.
Coming up, find out what other Bears' sensational season made our list.
He's the most electrifying player I've seen.
In 1999, Rams running back Marshall Faulk was the catalyst for the greatest show on turf, rolling up an NFL record 2,429 yards from scrimmage.
Marshall Faulk has surpassed Barry Sanders' record for total yards from scrimmage in a season.
Faulk gained over 1,000 yards rushing and receiving, and St. Louis won Super Bowl 34.
St. Louis, the gateway to the West, is now the gateway to the best.
But Marshall couldn't beat Craig on our list.
Touchdown Rams.
The number 7 single-season performance of all time, Roger Craig's 1,000 season in 1985.
What a bonanza! Spectacular run by Roger Craig.
Guys doing things that have never been done before are guys that you remember. It's unheard of and at the time unprecedented. And Roger Craig, rushing for 1,000 and receiving for 1,000, set a new standard in the NFL.
That's highlight reel material forever.
As a kid watching football, there were running backs, there was Franco Harris, and then there was Lynn Swann. But the two never really met until Bill Walsh developed that offense, and he really revolutionized the running back position. Bill Walsh started thinking about, I'm going to get a running back who's going to receive for 1,000 yards. What other coach was thinking that?
In 1984, Craig had earned a Super Bowl ring playing fullback alongside Wendell Tyler. But in 1985, Tyler was slowed by injury, and Craig became the feature back.
Roger just is so great after the catch. His fine receiving, but his running ability one-on-one in the open field is so outstanding that you find ways from that point to get him open.
We know that this guy will have to cover Roger, which is scary for them.
Roger can take the ball deep or short and can run excellent pass patterns.
He looked at a guy like Roger Craig. How many different ways can we get Roger Craig the ball? Can we hand it to him? Can we throw it to him? Can we screen to him?
Not only could Roger run the ball well, he was an extremely accomplished receiver out of the backfield, and he pretty much reshaped the running back position in that regard.
Looks over the left side, caught by Craig all the way to the end zone, and Craig goes in for the score.
Touchdown 49ers! He is the best back in the league right now. Walks into the end zone. Touchdown!
Whenever you played the San Francisco 49ers, because of the backs that they had, because of Roger Craig, he made that particular team really, really effective.
Roger Craig was incredibly crucial. I think Joe Montana had as much faith and belief in Roger Craig as he did John Taylor, Jerry Rice, all those guys. I can remember a lot of times where Montana would drop back, see that he had really nowhere to go downfield, and wind up just throwing a screen to Craig, and then Craig would break one.
Since 1985, only Marshall Faulk has gained 1,000 yards rushing and receiving in a single season. So why was Craig's performance more impressive?
Boy, is he fast!
Disqualify Marshall Faulk automatically from playing in a dome and playing on AstroTurf.
I think the impressive thing is he did it in San Francisco on bad turf, on bad fields in December. And I don't want to take anything away from Marshall, but I mean, he's an indoors, perfect condition, know exactly where every step is.
You slip and fall a lot outdoors on grass, and it takes a little bit more. So I'm not dogging Marshall Faulk, but just more credit to Roger.
He's into the end zone. Touchdown 49ers!
They're like I'm in heaven right now.
The number 6 single-season performance of all time, Gale Sayers' rookie season.
Give me 18 inches of daylight. That's all I need.
In 1965, Gale Sayers burst into pro football by scoring an NFL record 22 touchdowns.
He's the most electrifying player I've seen.
I played 4 years with Gale, and I played 4 years with Walter Payton. I have a hard time saying who was better, Walter Payton or Gale Sayers.
People will tell you today that Gale Sayers may be the greatest running back in the history of professional football.
And I know we use it in a cliche form now where they say, you know, every time he touches the ball, he's a threat of scoring. I think they came up with that cliche when Gale Sayers came out as a rookie.
He ran with the sense of a bat in a dark room. He just felt things that were around him and reacted to them with incredible speed.
I could see everybody on the field.
And so I knew where to run, where to cut. In the same way, I had a feel for what people were.
At number 6 on our countdown, Sayers showed that he could not only destroy defenses with his legs, but with his hands as well, averaging over 17 yards a catch in 1965.
Gale was probably the most versatile player at that time.
He could return punts, he could return kicks, he was a halfback, he could do it all.
Now watch this. The Windy City Whippet rockets 97 yards to a touchdown and a lead the Bears never relinquished to the Rams.
Sayers, especially early, was a ridiculously effective return guy. Punts, kicks, could do it all.
He'd run up into that hole, and that punt return and the kickoff return was phenomenal.
Well, I remember the special teams coach, if we even had one, probably didn't, said, you want to kick to him? Well, we didn't even think about not kicking to him. He's a rookie. We kick it to him. I think he catches it on the 1-yard line. He just bolted out of there. It was like he ran that 99 yards in about 4 seconds.
And he did do it all as a rookie. There has probably never been a more explosive rookie running back ever.
Sayers' greatest game of his rookie season and his career was a stunning 6-touchdown performance against the 49ers.
If you ever get a chance, watch that San Francisco game where he scored 6. Watch that game. It was in mud up to here.
The weather was so nasty that even the boys from Scotland Yard were shivering. But not even the muck and mire could slow down our number 6 performance.
Everybody was playing on a muddy field except him.
Okay, but he was a mudder, the only one I ever known.
Nobody could tackle him. And the wetter, the more slippery the field got, the more effective Gale was.
His feet must be that long, and he ran flat-footed, man. And he's the perfect mudder.
Sayers was one bad mudder. The only person who could keep him out of the end zone was Bears head coach George Halas.
He could have had 7. I think George Halas held him out. They had another chance for him to score again, and I think they pulled him out. I would have to say in the history of football, it was the greatest single game display I've ever seen. A rookie coming in, very difficult. Very difficult for him, for number one, to get to football that many times.
He scores 22 touchdowns as a rookie. And the thing that to me is more phenomenal about that accomplishment is how little he touched the ball. He only touched the ball 232 times that season. So he was averaging a touchdown about every 10 times he touched the ball. When Tomlinson scored his 32 touchdowns, he's touching the ball well over 400 times. Other guys who've broken the record over the years, Priest Holmes, Marshall Faulk, Sean Alexander, all 350 to 400 touches in the season. This guy touched the ball 232 times, and he scored 22 touchdowns. Just amazing.
Up next, the receiver with the most catches in a season.
Every week he'd be out there catching more passes than any receiver in the league, and he did it over the course of an entire season.
Before we continue our countdown, let's recap the list so far.
Number 10, kicker Mark Mosley wins MVP.
That's a great kick by Mosley.
Number 9, Jerry Glanville's Grits Blitz. Number 8, Devin Hester takes it to the house.
Dancing to the end zone.
Number 7, Roger Craig shows he can catch and run. And number 6, Gale Sayers' amazing rookie season.
His feet must be that long, and he ran flat-footed, man. And he's the perfect mudder.
The number 5 single-season performance of all time, Marvin Harrison's 143 catches in 2002.
Number 5.
Throws to the end zone. Marvin's got it. What a great catch.
It's the kind of thing where you know he's going to catch those passes, and you try to prevent him from catching those passes, and you still can't stop him.
You know where the Colts are going to go with the football. They're going to throw it to Marvin Harrison. Sometimes you just can't stop it.
And every week he'd be out there catching more passes than any receiver in the league, and he did it over the course of an entire season.
In 2002, Marvin Harrison cemented his place in NFL history with 143 catches, 20 more than Herman Moore's previous record.
Peyton takes a snap, looks, throws upfield. Marvin's got it to 40. That's his 124th catch this year. He's caught more passes than any player in league history in a single season.
If you do the math, I mean, it's like 9 catches a game.
I mean, you're talking about averaging, 9 passes a game? That's incredible.
Our number 5 single-season performance included 6 double-digit reception games, another NFL record.
You never know what route he's going to run. From the moment he takes the first step off the line of scrimmage, he has you guessing what he's going to do.
Much of Harrison's success in 2002 can be attributed to his relationship with triggerman Peyton Manning.
Sets, look, fire, touchdown, Marvin Harrison.
When the Minnesota Vikings and Indianapolis Colts were playing a Monday night game a few years ago, Carson Palmer and Chad Johnson bought tickets to the Indianapolis-Minnesota game to watch Peyton and Marvin work, not like you would watch it on television, but watch them interact on the sidelines, because they wanted to learn from the greatest combination in football.
Peyton looks, got Marvin, yes! Looking for Marvin in the end zone, touchdown!
20-point on the fake, he thought the run was coming.
Harrison is the only player to have 4 consecutive 100 or more reception seasons, with 2002 being his brightest of the bunch.
A big play where a touchdown, Marvin delivers the dagger.
To be able to catch 143 balls in 1 year, that's really eye-popping. I don't know if that record will ever be broken.
Marvin Harrison! My goodness!
The number 4 single-season performance of all time. Dick Night Train Lane's 14 interceptions in 1952.
Night Train Lane's story is an amazing story. It's like something out of a fairy tale. Goes 1 year to a little junior college in Nebraska. Goes in the Army, plays for an Army team at Fort Ord. He's a wide receiver, scores 18 touchdowns in 1 season. He's discharged from the Army, goes back to Los Angeles and gets a job at an aircraft factory. And it's dirty, dreary, monotonous work, and he hates it. But every day, his bus takes him past the offices of the Los Angeles Rams. So one day, totally on a whim, he gets off the bus, walks in the office, and says, I want to try out.
There were plenty of fads throughout the 1950s, but in 1952, rookie cornerback Dick Night Train Lane was the real deal.
He picked off 14 passes in 1 season. And that was a 12-game season.
He was the first defensive back, really, I think, that baited quarterbacks and receivers into throwing the ball.
Night Train had the ability to do the bait and switch. He would play off, and he was so quick and had such great athletic skills, the opposing quarterback would look and say, oh, geez, the guy's uncovered. And at that moment, Night Train would break for the ball, and that's why he got so many interceptions in his rookie year. Night Train Lane had a very interesting way, almost a quaint way of expressing himself.
He came from Texas, and he spoke this very strange language that nobody could quite understand.
So I'd catch man bodies. When the Cleveland Browns, anytime they come, they were just a class. They always had the stripes down there. And I said, man.
I'm not even sure that he understood a lot of what he was saying.
For 14 seasons, our number 4 pick showed an aggressive playing style with the Rams, Cardinals, and Lions, and became one of the most feared players in the game.
He was a devastating hitter.
The pass is good to McElhenney, but bang!
He was one of the few players that hurt you every time he tackled you.
But bang!
I mean, the guy would grab you by the neck. He would bring you down any way he could by the face mask.
And he was the reason that they made the outlaw the face mask. There were 2 years in Night Train's career, he didn't make a tackle below the jawline.
Some people call it a clothesline. It became known as the Night Train necktie. It was just that. I mean, he would hit guys with his arm under the chin and lay them out. Did it all the time.
You can understand what it was. You had this forearm that would come up from behind and pull you down right around your neck.
If the rules of today were in effect when Night Train Lane played, he would have been fined more than he earned.
Because if you don't hit him right, you break your elbow, your arm or something, you know. So you got to really get him right in front of him and hit him with that forearm to rip him up.
His methods may have been harsh, but over 50 years later, Dick Night Train Lane's record of 14 interceptions in 1 season still stands.
And probably 50 years later, you can honestly say there's nobody that's done it better.
Up next, the best season a wide receiver has ever had.
It's hard to imagine anybody ever having another season like that again.
Touchdown, Vikings! They call me the freak, man.
There have been plenty of outstanding single-season performances by wide receivers, In 1998, Randy Moss caught 17 touchdowns as a rookie. In the wide-open AFL, Charlie Hennigan caught 101 passes in 1964. And despite only playing 12 games in 1987 due to a players' strike, San Francisco's Jerry Rice set an NFL record with 22 touchdown receptions. Rice may be the greatest wide receiver of all time, but the greatest single season by a wide receiver took place more than 2 decades before Rice was born.
Touchdown 49ers!
The number 3 single season performance of all time. Don Hutson's 1942 season.
Here's Don Hutson, once the pride of Alabama, one of the fastest men in pro football.
In 1942, Packers wide receiver Don Hutson caught 74 passes and 17 touchdowns in just 11 games.
It's hard to imagine anybody ever having another season like that again.
Don Hutson may be the most dominant player at a single position ever to have played in the NFL.
The numbers he put up that year were so far and above anything that anybody ever put up before.
Hold it! Look out, fellas! Look at that cookie stride!
Our number 3 single-season performance of all time is arguably the most dominant season in sports since Babe Ruth hit 54 home runs in 1919.
And Hutson streaks down the field to receive it. Here it comes! Look out, fellas!
And he's playing in an era where there was no defensive pass interference rule. I mean, you got mugged.
He said, for every pass that I catch in a game, I catch 1,000 in practice. And there's a picture of him holding what looks to be like 10 footballs, all from a practice session that he had that had the quarterback constantly throwing him passes.
The numbers are mind-boggling. Hutson more than doubled his closest competition in receiving yards. He more than doubled his closest competition in touchdowns, and he almost tripled his closest competition in catches.
Guy catches 74 passes. I don't think anybody else in the league caught more than 30.
Most teams didn't throw that many passes in a season. He caught that many balls.
He gained 1,211 yards. I don't think anybody else gained as many as 600. He was a guy who, all through his career, but particularly that season, opened people's eyes up as to the possibilities of the passing game and the impact a single receiver can have on a team's ability to win championships.
Like Ruth, who dominated as a pitcher and a hitter, Hutson was an all-purpose dynamo, making an impact as a defender and a place kicker.
The guy played very, very well as a defensive back. He played both ways.
Our number 3 single-season performance included 7 of Hutson's 30 career interceptions.
And when he's tackled, the grunts can be heard in the next county.
A key component of Hutson's 1942 season was his connection with quarterback Arnie Herber.
Herber, halfback. You've just had an idea of his passing talent. Herbie gets ready to hurl it, and Hutson streaks down the field to receive it.
Hutson and Herbert were the absolute perfect combination. Hutson probably had as much speed as anybody in the league when he first came into it. So you had a guy who could throw the ball 65 yards in the air. I mean, the first time Herbert completed the pass to Hutson, which was in a game against the Bears in 1934, Hutson's rookie season, it was for an 83-yard touchdown.
The famous Herbert-Hutson combination is one of football's greatest threats.
In an era where the run dominated the game, Don Hutson's 1942 season set the standard for the wide receiver position.
I think Don Hutson's legacy is that he will always and should always remain the receiver to compare other receivers to. As great as Jerry Rice is and as great as some of the other young and upcoming receivers are, I think you'll always have to go back to Don Hutson, because when he did what he did, no one else was even close. He was just a tremendous, tremendous threat.
That you have to rank it among the great receiving seasons of all time.
Coming up, the greatest 2,000-yard rushing season of all time.
Oh, did he do that?
He just outran people, just pure speed.
Ever since Beatty Feathers' first rush for over 1,000 yards in 1934, a running back's goal has been to go higher and farther. The new frontier these days is rushing for over 2,000 yards. And while O.J. Simpson, Barry Sanders, Terrell Davis, and Jamal Lewis have all reached that milestone,
There it is, over the 2,000, he's at the 15, 10, 5, touchdown Jamal Lewis!
there is one player who ran even farther.
The number 2 single-season performance of all time. Eric Dickerson breaks O.J.'s rushing record.
Number 2.
At running back, number 29, Eric Dickerson.
Pitches off to Dick. Oh, hard right. Out of the 10 to 5. Touchdown! Whoa! Did he do that?
If there was ever poetry in motion, it was Eric Dickerson running the football. I mean, he just outran people. Just pure speed.
And when he hit a hole, he was downfield 20, 25 yards faster than anybody you'd ever seen before.
He ran like a big Clydesdale, just an eloquent, loquacious, I mean, any of those fancy words you could think of to describe beauty. That was Eric Dickerson running the football.
Looked like somebody pouring syrup from a bottle. It was smooth and it was sweet.
That's a nice piece of running, showing you, look at this and take that.
In 1984, Rams running back Eric Dickerson was unstoppable and shattered the single-season rushing record with 2,105 yards.
It'd be like grabbing Jell-O. No matter where you squeezed him, he was coming out somewhere.
I guess probably his signature run was a run he had against the Jets, where he goes up the middle and breaks into the clear. And you see two defensive backs have a clear angle on him, and he just shifts into another gear and just pulls away from them and goes 85 yards for a touchdown.
Down to the 10. 5. Touchdown! Eric Dickerson.
I mean, he got to 10,000 yards faster than any back in history.
Wow. He is awesome.
You know, the word we like to use is invincible. You know, I'd like to get him a cape and make him think he's Superman.
Dickerson used his superpowers to set an NFL record by rushing for more than 100 yards in 12 games.
Yeah, our running game is very basic. We don't try to fool anybody. Our main scheme is just to attack and destroy it. I mean, that's what John said. We want to destroy the defense, and that's what we try to do.
Head coach John Robinson made Dickerson the heart of the offense, and he ran for more yards than the Rams quarterback Jeff Kemp threw for.
Kemp looking now, steps up, fires to the end zone, pick off.
Anything sideways, try to find something and hit it. That was the backside in that got you on out. I think you had something there.
When you were game planning for the Rams in those days, you really didn't have to think about much else other than Eric Dickerson. All you had to think about was trying to control him, and teams still couldn't do it.
Touchdown, Eric Dickerson.
Hey, man, I'm going to tell you something. When they call that play, I said it's going to be a touchdown.
Besides finding the end zone, our number 2 single-season performer was also chasing a milestone that only one other player had accomplished.
2,000 yards was thought to be otherworldly, that no one would get there. And then when O.J. did it, you figured, well, unless they make a 20-game season, we're probably not going to see anybody else get there. But Dickerson did.
He's got it. And a brand new single-season rushing record for the outstanding star from Southern Methodist.
Dickerson broke O.J.'s record in the process, and his 2,105 yards in a single season has yet to be conquered.
15, he's down to the 10, the line, touchdown, and the Rams win it.
The game was just easy for Eric.
Big hole, 30, 25, he's gone. Touchdown Rams. Eric Dickerson right up the middle.
Up next, the greatest single-season performance of all time.
There are very few players that you watch over time that are unstoppable.
Before we unveil our choice for the greatest single-season performance of all time, let's recap the competition.
Number 10, a kicker is named the NFL's MVP. Number 9, Jerry Glanville says, eat my grits.
Great grits. How about some more?
Number 8, Devin Hester's 2007 season. Number 7, Roger Craig runs and catches for a G. Number 6, Dale Sayers touchdown-filled rookie season.
He's the most electrifying player I've seen.
Number 5, Marvin Harrison's 143 catches.
Marvin's got it!
Number 4, Night Train's 14 interceptions. Number 3, Don Hudson's 1942 season.
Look out, fellas. Look at that cookie stride.
Number 2, Eric Dickerson sets a new rushing record.
And a brand new single-season rushing record.
And now, the #1 single-season performance of all time, Tom Brady's 2007 season.
In 1984, second-year quarterback Dan Marino broke 6 NFL single-season passing records.
Touchdown, Miami.
Most impressive was his 48 touchdown tosses.
Touchdown, but that's a new record.
Marino's record stood for 20 years before Peyton Manning threw 49 TDs in 2004.
Throws to Stokely. That's the record breaker. The record they thought would never be broken has been broken.
Just 3 years later, Tom Brady set a new record with an unheard of 50 touchdown passes, making him #1 on our list.
Tom Brady just won't quit. Fires, touchdown! Tom Brady right on the button with that one.
Brady doesn't even work up a sweat. He looks like John Wayne out there making a movie.
The perfect storm of a National Football League season. You have to have an unbelievable quarterback, which Brady is. You have to have an unbelievable group of wide receivers, which he had. And you have to have a coach who's willing to continue to let you throw the football.
Good day to throw. Yeah, not always. Yeah. Tom Brady ties Peyton Manning with his 49th touchdown pass of the season.
You know, even though the Patriots cheated, Tom Brady was the best.
I didn't think anyone would break Manning's record in the short term, 50 touchdown passes. I'm not sure how he did it. I watched it, and I'm still not sure. You're throwing over 3 touchdown passes a game? It's extraordinary.
I didn't really think it was ever going to get broken, simply because of the math. I mean, if you have a bad game, you throw 1 touchdown pass. To make up for it, throw 5 in the next game, which is practically impossible to do in this league.
It's the kind of thing where people know he's going to throw the football, and they know he's going to throw it towards the end zone, and they still can't stop it.
Fires it to the right, down the right sideline, and caught at the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Patriots for Tom Brady. Touchdown pass number 50, an NFL record.
Am I surprised he threw all those touchdowns? Actually not.
They had some blowout games that they continued to throw the football, much to the chagrin to some of the opposition, and they did a lot of that in New England.
Looking left the whole way, fires to Welker, and it's a touchdown. 44-60.
But some think Peyton Manning's 2004 season deserves the top spot on our list.
Peyton didn't play what amounted to a game and a half. There was like the fourth quarter against Chicago, the fourth quarter against Detroit, and then the last game of the season. He didn't play but the first series, so to take nothing away from Tom Brady because he had an outstanding season, but Manning's in 04 could have been much, much better.
That's what I'm talking about.
I questioned whether Randy Moss would work in New England. He did.
Hey, I'm cool. It's on down, though. Let's go. Airs it out, downfield. Randy Moss is there. Touchdown. Wow. Fires down the right side. Touchdown. Randy Moss.
And without Randy Moss, Tom Brady wouldn't have thrown 50 touchdown passes.
But Moss caught only 25% of Brady's total completions.
When Randy Moss comes to New England, everyone's wondering, how is he going to handle getting the ball enough? Randy Moss broke the all-time single-season receiving touchdown record, and Wes Welker had over 100 catches.
Is it? It's going to be 6.
It's going to be Wes Welker today.
Touchdown, Wes Welker.
It's going to be Kevin Falk today.
Tom Brady to Kevin Falk.
Maybe it was Dante Stallworth today.
Dante Stallworth.
That's what Brady's all about.
Just remarkable how he can keep all those players happy. There's never a public complaint from any of those players, and all of them have egos, and all of them want numbers, and they're all getting numbers.
Our #1 single-season performer could be the #1 QB of all time.
Unitas Montana Brady.
If there's anybody that I think that could be Joe Montana, it would be Tom Brady.
I never thought we'd be comparing anyone to Joe Montana, but Brady magically has at least entered the conversation.
Develop an appreciation for what he does after you've played this position. You know how tough it is to really see everything that's going on, to make the right decisions.
He really has set the standard and put the numbers up that can compare with anyone.
Brady's 2007 season is in the books. The question is, can his record 50 touchdown passes ever be broken?
If they extend the season from 16 games to 18 games, that's the only way I think that record can be broken.
Tom Brady owns our #1 single-season performance of all time.
But if this list proves anything, it's that it's only a matter of time before another performance